The MNI supports, engages and facilitates high-quality projects with an emphasis on value adding through coordination of effort and collaboration, and aims to showcase the university's prowess in fundamental, translational and clinical research in the neurosciences and related disciplines. We are very pleased to be hosting Baroness Suzanne Greenfeld, CBE here at the University of Melbourne. Susan is a British neuroscientist, writer, broadcaster and a member of the House of Lords. Specialising in the physiology of the brain, Susan researches the impact of 21st century technologies on the mind, how the brain generates consciousness and interrogates novel approaches to neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's disease. Susan Greenfeld was an undergraduate at St Hilda's College, Oxford. She took a DPhil at the University Department of Pharmacology, Oxford, and subsequently held research fellowships in the Department of Physiology, Oxford, the Collège de France, Paris, and England. In 1985, she was appointed university lecturer in synaptic pharmacology, fellow and tutor in medicine at the College of Oxford, becoming a full professor in 1996, has since been awarded 30 honorary degrees from a number of British and foreign universities. In 1998, she was appointed Director of the Royal Institution of Great Britain, and she's currently Director of the Institute for the Future of the Mind at the James Martin 21st Century School, as well as a Senior Research Fellow at Lincoln College, an Honorary Fellow at St Hilda's College, or at Oxford University. Susan Greenfeld holds multidisciplinary research, heads a multidisciplinary research group exploring novel brain mechanisms linked to neurodegeneration. She also studies the physical basis of the mind. In 1995, she published her own theory of consciousness, Journey to the Centres of the Mind, which was further developed in the publication The Private Life of the Brain in 2000. In addition, she has developed an interest in the young mind and the impact of 21st century technologies on how young minds think and feel. Having said all this, it is a great pleasure to invite Baroness Professor Greenfeld to deliver her lecture, The Neuroscience of Consciousness. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Trevor. It's a huge pleasure to be here, and I'm told that you at the back can hear me. Is that true? Hands up if you can hear me. Oh, that's audience participation straight away. It's wonderful to be here, and I'm very honoured to have spent a very exciting day at this fabulous new building. I'm really jealous. I think all my colleagues in Oxford will be jealous at the facilities that you have here, and just the way it seems to help you think. You know, sort of environment that I imagine if one worked here would really aid and abet constructive, creative thinking and conversations and so on. So for all of you who had a part in that, and I know Trevor as well, many, many congratulations. I think it's a fantastic facility. So the one thing, though, that Trevor didn't mention, which I'm really proud of, was that in 2006, among all these other garlands and blue ribbons and so on, I was awarded Honorary Australian of the Year. This doesn't help me through customs or visa, but I do have the plaque, like the T-shirt. I have the plaque, Honorary Australian of the Year, for someone who shows Australian values. I'm not sure what they are. Perhaps someone can enlighten me at some stage. Anyway, I do feel that Australia really is my second home, especially in the summer months, although I have to say this morning did remind me very much of Oxford this morning. Anyway, you're not here to talk about the weather. We're here to really talk about something that I think is a fascinating question that not just scientists, not just neuroscientists, but anyone surely must think about. And it's, I would argue, one of the biggest questions any human being can ask, which is, what are you experiencing right now? And however close you are to the person sitting next to you, however articulate, however musical, however poetic, no one can share what you're experiencing now firsthand. It's this wonderful subjectivity that is absolutely unique to you that makes things so special, makes life worth living. If someone said you're never going to be conscious ever again, wouldn't that be tantamount to dying? So this inner experience that no one else can share poses, I think, as the biggest issue facing us, the biggest question, the biggest fascination. What is it? How can we understand it? How does it come about? Well, let me just say straight away, I'm not going to be answering any of those questions. What I am going to try and show you is how neuroscience can bring to the party, I think, a valid contribution. It's not going to be the answers, but I hope that along with the philosophers and all other great thinkers who for centuries have considered this issue, that we do have a contribution that we can make, which means that, of course, if we're talking about neuroscience, if we're seeing this through the prism of the neuroscientist, inevitably we start with this rather unpromising looking object on the screen. Now, I love this picture because it does remind me a long time ago when I was a student in Oxford and we had to dissect a human brain. Professor Fink here was in that very department of human anatomy at Oxford, where they wheel on these trolleys containing sort of Tupperware buckets with human brains inside them. And have people dissected? Hands up. Who's dissected a brain? Oh, wow. God, I'm talking to the converted. Everyone's demon neuroscientist. Well, for those of you who didn't put your hand up, please listen to the story. And those of you who did, bear with me, because I think it is worth a thought. That there you are with the brain in formalin, fixative to enable you to dissect it. So you're wearing surgical gloves. And I remember, perhaps those of you who put your hands up had this very same experience. Oh, actually, I'll ask for a show of hands in a minute if you did. You put your hand in this bucket, and then you hold, just like in the picture, you hold a human brain in one hand. And I remember thinking, if I wasn't wearing surgical gloves and a bit, for some reason, dislodged under my fingernail, would that be the bit that somebody loved with? Would it be a habit? Would it be a memory? Would it be a habit like, let's say, biting your fingernail? Can you have the habit of biting your fingernails underneath your fingernails? Okay, hands up. People with their hands up who also have had those thoughts. You must have. Yes, there we are. Well done. Yeah. So this brings home to you the fascination of neuroscience and how it can almost drive you mad, actually. And perhaps someone would say that is a prerequisite for neuroscience, that you have to be slightly about, is that how can something that gets under your fingernail give you the experience you're having now? I mean, it's such a sort of leap to make through something that's just really kind of mushy and boring to something that makes your whole life worthwhile. So how do we get there? What is it, if we're talking about the neuroscience, what is it that translates into something that is you, something that is so subjective and personal? This isn't you. This is George Bernard Shaw. And the reason I like this picture is because you can just, the philosophers hate this, if I say you can just tell he's thinking. You can just tell he's thinking. You know, what's going on behind those piercing eyes? What's going on behind your piercing eyes, even if they're not piercing? What's going on that gives you this subjective take on the world, this phenomenology that we call consciousness? So that's what we're going to look at. We're going to see how neuroscience can help us make some kind of progress. And perhaps I should say from the outset, what we are not going to be able to do is work out how the water is turned into wine. How does the water of boring old brain cells and sludgy stuff translate into the wine of phenomenological subjective experience? So let's start, nonetheless, with some assumptions. The first might seem pretty obvious, and that is, sadly, that consciousness can't be formally defined. Now, this really does exercise many people, and indeed for some, they actually shrug and give up. Can you imagine? We wouldn't have any more lecture if we gave up now, because we can't formally define it. I think the problem is that normally our strategies for defining things fall down here. There's two broad strategies that normally we'd use to define something. One is referral to a higher set. For example, I'd say a table is a piece of furniture. Love is an emotion. Consciousness is a what? What is it? There's no higher set of which consciousness is a subpart. The other is operational definitions. Flight is when you defy gravity. Consciousness is when you do what? You're not doing anything, apart from laughing at my rather poor jokes. And yeah, I hope you're still conscious at this early stage of the talk. So therefore, our normal strategies, either operational or referral to higher set, don't work. And that's why I think we flounder in trying to define what it means. Now, if you're a neuroscientist, if you're a scientist, happily, these nuances don't worry us, because what I'd like to suggest is a working definition of consciousness. And I don't know if there's any philosophers in the audience. There often are, and they never put their hands up if I say any philosophers. Until the end. Oh, there's one. Until the end, when they ask some highly technical and erudite question, you know, and they've been sort of keeping themselves in disguise. But I know that, well, I'll address you as the token philosopher, but I'm sorry if this offends you, but I'll just give an informal definition that it's just what I described. It's the first-person subjective world as it seems to you. Let's be even more crude, it's what you're going to lose tonight in all probability. And even worse, we all know what consciousness is, don't we? So why don't we just press on and see what progress we can make? So any of those levels, I'm afraid, aren't very academic, but if we're to make any progress, unless we're all going to go and have the drink right now, I'm afraid we have to live with this rather inadequate forms of definition. This problem of the water into wine, the translation of the squalor of everyday brain cells into the subjectivity of your wonderful experience, has been called by someone called David Chalmers, an Australian, the hard problem. Pretty straightforward. And I'd like to suggest that this hard problem is very simply that. What's the difference between sleeping and wakefulness? Now, some people have other concepts of consciousness that I think can actually confuse us, but I'd just like to clear them out the way right now. Some people talk about self-consciousness, and I'd like to suggest to you that that is an add-on luxury on normal consciousness. It's something that after the age of 1.5, 2 years of age, human beings are capable of having, but I don't think a rat ever looks itself in the mirror and says, because I'm a rat, you know, they're not self. Prerequisite for neuroscience that you have to be slightly about is that how can something that gets under your fingernail give you the experience you're having now? I mean, it's such a sort of leap to make through something that's just really kind of mushy and boring to something that makes your whole life worthwhile. So how do we get there? What is it, if we're talking about the neuroscience, what is it that translates into something that is you, something that is so subjective and personal? This isn't you, this is George Bernard Shaw, and the reason I like this picture is because you can just, philosophers hate this, if I say you can just tell he's thinking. You can just tell he's thinking. You know, what's going on behind those piercing eyes? What's going on behind your piercing eyes? Even if they're not piercing. What's going on that gives you this subjective take on the world, this phenomenology that we call consciousness. So that's what we're going to look at. We're going to see how neuroscience can help us make some kind of progress, and perhaps I should say from the outset, what we are not going to be able to do is work out how the water is turned into wine. How does the water of boring old brain cells and sludgy stuff translate into the wine of phenomenological subjective experience? So, let's start, nonetheless, with some assumptions. The first might seem pretty obvious, and that is, sadly, that consciousness can't be formally defined. Now, this really does exercise many people, and indeed for some, they actually shrug and give up. Can you imagine? We wouldn't have any more lecture if we gave up now, because we can't formally define it. I think the problem is that normally our strategies for defining things fall down here. There's two broad strategies that normally we'd use to define something. One is referral to a higher set. For example, I'd say a table is a piece of furniture. Love is an emotion. Consciousness is a what? What is it? There's no higher set of which consciousness is a sub-part. The other is operational definitions. Flight is when you defy gravity. Consciousness is when you do what? You're not doing anything, apart from laughing at my rather poor jokes. And yeah, I hope you're still conscious at this early stage of the talk. So therefore, our normal strategies, either operational or referral to a higher set, don't work. And that's why I think we flounder in trying to define what it means. Now, if you're a neuroscientist, if you're a scientist, happily, these nuances don't worry us. Because what I'd like to suggest is a working definition of consciousness, and I don't know if there's any philosophers in the audience. There often are, and they never put their hands up if I say any philosophers. Until the end, oh, there's one. Until the end, when they ask some highly technical and erudite question, you know, and they've been sort of keeping themselves in disguise. But I know that I'll address you as the token philosopher, but I'm sorry if this offends you, but I'll just give an informal definition that it's just what I described. It's the first-person subjective world as it seems to you. Let's be even more crude, it's what you're going to lose tonight in all probability. And even worse, we all know what consciousness is, don't we? So why don't we just press on and see what progress we can make? So any of those levels, I'm afraid, aren't very academic, but if we're to make any progress, unless we're all going to go and have the drink right now, I'm afraid we have to live with this rather inadequate forms of definition. This problem of the water into wine, the translation of the squalor of everyday brain cells into the subjectivity of your wonderful experience, has been called by someone called David Chalmers, an Australian, the hard problem. Pretty straightforward. And I'd like to suggest that this hard problem is very simply that. What's the difference between sleeping and wakefulness? Now, some people have other concepts of consciousness that I think can actually confuse us, but I'd just like to clear them out the way right now. Some people talk about self-consciousness, and I'd like to suggest to you that that is an add-on luxury on normal consciousness. It's something that after the age of 1.5, 2 years of age, human beings are capable of having, but I don't think a rat ever looks itself in the mirror and says, I'm a rat. You know, they're not self-conscious, but they could be conscious. So I wouldn't like to trouble us with this notion of what philosophers call meta-representation, that is to say, this notion of self-consciousness. The other issue is subconscious. Any devotees of Freud, of course, will be very familiar with that, where you are conscious, but you're not conscious of a particular thing, even though it may inform that current state. So I don't want to really focus, we can in the Q&A, on the subconscious or self-conscious. I simply suggest the hard problem is going to be enough for anyone for an hour. That is to say, the difference between unconsciousness and communal garden raw consciousness. I'd also like to assume it's generated by, for, and of the brain, because that's an area that I'm familiar with. You might think this is pretty obvious, but I just put it as an assumption because it is. Some people, so-called panpsychics, as far as I understand it, posit that perhaps consciousness is an irreducible property of the universe. It's there somehow out in the ether, and your brain is like some kind of satellite dish that sort of picks it up somehow. Now, one can't prove or disprove that, and therefore it's not very useful if we're trying to make a journey now, if we're trying to make some progress, especially in relation to the brain. So I would like to pay my respects to that theory and place it to one side as something that's not going to be in our sights, in our crosshairs this evening. And finally, any scientific explanation must include this quintessential feature of subjectivity. Now, why have I put scientific in inverted commas like that? It's because it's a word that's often used, and it's because in science you are ruthlessly objective, as I'm sure, given the number of hands that went up, there's many scientists in the room, we all know the whole essence of science is objectivity. It's impartiality. You are an observer, and you observe what someone else observed, and it's reported even in the passive. So you would never say, I made up a solution, because that sounds fishy. You'll say, rather tortuously, a solution was made up. Because it just absolutely preserves the fact that your solution is the same as someone else's solution. The agent is trivial relative to the action. However, where does that land us if we're thinking about consciousness, given it's quintessentially subjective? And this is why I think so many scientists are very leery of studying consciousness, why you can't apply for grants to study consciousness. You have to disguise it as schizophrenia or anesthesia or something like this. And some wag has actually said that any scientist trying to embark on the neuroscience of consciousness is a CLM. I bet you can't guess what a CLM is. It's a career-limiting move. Okay, so these are the assumptions that I place before you, and so long as you buy into this, along with my promise that I won't be able to turn the water into wine, stick with me, because now we can go on our journey. And this is where we start. So where do we start? So there you are. You are going to adopt a neuroscience approach. We've defined something as quintessentially subjective that's going to be related to the brain, and here is a brain in situ. I mean, just look at it again. It occupies the same universe as tooth enamel or earwax or nasal hair, and yet it does so much more. So how does it do that? How does it do those things? It's pretty banal looking at it like that. So perhaps, and again, those of you who aren't neuroscientists, perhaps you're also familiar with the very obvious feature that the brain is characterized by these anatomically macro-scale brain regions, like this cauliflower-looking thing on the back. Where is it? Actually, I can't. Where is it? Where's the pointer? I'm frightened I'll get... Oh, there we are. So, yeah, where we are. So this thing on the back, an outer layer, and the spinal cord, and so on. So that begs the question, and many people, when confronted with the brain and asked to study consciousness, will immediately say, well, is there a center for consciousness? Is there a brain area that generates consciousness? Very straightforward idea. So let's try and look at that one first. Could one of these areas be the center for consciousness? So that's what I think. There's no such thing as a centre for consciousness. Why do I say that? For two reasons. First, it actually doesn't make much logical sense. Just think of a brain within a brain being a centre. What is a centre anyway, just out of interest? What happens inside a centre? Doesn't really help us saying something's a centre for something. And anyone, I don't know if there's any people who lived in England in the 50s and 60s, when I was young and read a comic called The Beezer, and they featured these characters called the numbskulls, and the numbskulls lived inside this little man's head and got him up to no end of mischief. And it actually was my first lesson in determinism, actually. Anyway, you have the crisp eating department, and then you have the eye department, the nose cleaning department. Notice the doors are rigidly shut, the compartments are solid. Top left is the consciousness centre, clearly, the chief numbskull in his room. So I, with all humility, suggest this might be a metaphor for people that say there's centres for this and that, right? Now, if that was the case, we ask ourselves, as I said, what goes on inside the centre? So what goes on inside the numbskull's brain? Are there mini numbskulls? And inside the mini numbskulls are there micro numbskulls? And then are there nano numbskulls and pico numbskulls? So you end up miniaturizing the issue. But has that actually really explained anything? It's what Ramachandran calls an anaesthetic explanation. That's to say, something that sounds good, but actually when you think about it, doesn't really help you. So, if we're looking at a centre for consciousness, I'd like to suggest to you that actually it doesn't really make sense. And anyway, we know the brain doesn't work like that. The neuroscientists say, well, no, there's, for vision, for example, at least 30 different brain areas related to vision that divvies up the job into colour, form and motion. And we know that any one brain area will participate in many functions, and when I say any one function is divvied up. So it's not as if you have a one-on-one of brain function and brain area tying up together. And moreover, we can look at empirical evidence also suggesting that there is no such thing as a single centre for consciousness. In this experiment, what they did was to administer anesthesia, thereby abolishing consciousness, and you would think if there was a single centre for that facility, as the anesthesia was given, one area and one area alone would suddenly shut down. And I hope you can see here that that's not the case. So this is with bupivacaine, an anaesthetic, and with MRI scanning. I'm sure people, especially here, are very familiar with this. And if you're not, all you have to focus on are the bright bits, the yellow, red bits, and as you can appreciate, everything uniformly shuts down as the anaesthetic dose is increased. So looking for a centre for consciousness isn't a very helpful start, I would suggest, for a neuroscience explanation, because I would suggest there's no such thing. Second, what are we going to do? You see, I think we need to work out what the problems are first and draw up a shopping list and only then go to the brain. So what are we going to do about this next problem of non-human versus human consciousness? This is something that people do think about a lot, and it strikes me, if you look at the anatomy of a range of species in the animal kingdom, I would defy anyone to draw a clear Rubicon, a clear anatomical line, where one load of species are disenfranchised as being unconscious and kind of robots, and the other group are highly, well, not highly sentient, but have some kind of inner state. I wouldn't be confident, as you can see here, although the brains vary hugely, the theme is the same. The theme is always the same. It's just variations on a theme that are characterizing the species. So I don't think that we can, with confidence, point to an area to study. And moreover, and I owe this to a marine biologist who gave up marine biology to take up neuroscience, who worked in my lab for a while, he pointed out this with the octopus. Now, the octopus has a very different type of brain from us, but nonetheless, the octopus vulgaris is sufficiently worthy as to get Home Office, in UK at least, Home Office legislation. That means to say you cannot just cut up an octopus vulgaris if you want to for an experiment. And actually, they had featured a lot in experiments in the old days with
square feet? You have 3 sons? You're 32 with 3 sons? You're doing a lot different than I am. That's so crazy. A lot different than I am. You have 3 sons? You're 32 with 3 sons? You're doing a lot different than I am. That's so crazy. Are you still with the baby daddy? You are? Married? Happily? With 3 children? What is it even like? How big is your house? 1,600 square feet? It's big? How did this happen? Wait, okay, let's start from the beginning. All right. You were born, and then you went to elementary school, middle school, high school here. You were a good kid? You were a good kid, straight A's? Too good? Like you had color coordinated notes? I loved you. I always would bully you into giving me the... I was so manipulative to these kids. I'd be like, don't be fucking weird, dude. Give me your notes. Don't you almost just want to do what I say? What are you talking? Give me the fuck. What are you talking? Give me the fucking notes, dude. What are you, crazy? And they're like, no, I need them for studying. And they're like, dude, you wrote them down. You have them. I didn't write them down. I need. What are you doing? You're being crazy. Pretty good, right? Why were we talking about me? We were talking about you. Oh yeah, right. I was a bully. I would have bullied you. We got there. I was a cool bully, though. You know what? Okay. Don't. So, you have kids. You were a good girl. And then in high school, still good, stayed good. Did you have sexual relations? You didn't have sex till college? Get the fuck out of here. So that, okay, you didn't have sex, really? Any?
is it? Hold on.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to.
No, no, no. Hmm. What the hell do I do now? Hmm? Okay. Why is this so bad, bro? The frame rate.
Can you just do it? Can you just do it? Can you do it? Thanks. Okay. Yeah, no, I like this. None of that? You didn't do any of that? Okay. And then you graduated high school, small school, right? Big? But we're here. There's nobody here. There's a big one? Okay, all right. Big school, and then you went to college? University of, don't tell people where you went. We don't want. Oh, but I guess you never did anything bad, so they can know. Yeah, okay, let's give them your socials. What is this? So, is this a button? It's supposed to be closed? What do you mean it's a, oh wait, you're totally right. It's 100% a weight. You guys got it. Nailed it. Really good job. I thought it was.
Correct your handling to sure. Gonna just try. Why is the frame rate so low? What the hell is this? Um. Hmm. Var. Kırık. What the hell? How do I do the benchmark? Mm. Bruh. Okay. I'm supposed to go. I know where I want, right? Expect cargo. I don't have any space to it. Load and reserve cargo for your steps. No, I don't really want to do this right. Climbing Utah. Difficulty high. Finally arrived after the race car delivery. No.
Something I could take home with me. I thought it was a new friend. Tell people where you went. We don't want. Oh, but I guess you never did anything bad, so they can know. Yeah, okay, let's give them your socials. What is this? So, is this a button? It's supposed to be closed? What do you mean it's a... Oh, wait, you're totally right. It's 100% a weight. You guys got it. Nailed it. Really good job. I thought it was something I could take home with me. I thought it was a new friend. So, okay. Then you went to college. Freshman year, you decided to study what? Chemical engineering. Okay, total dork. You're a dork. 100% dork. Nobody's wanting to have sex with you. Were you a big fat fatty? You weren't fat. You were this? You were this? You were pretty like this? Shut up. Shut your stupid mouth. You were pretty? You weren't ugly? Okay, so how did men try and have sex with you and you said no? When you had sex freshman year? With who? Who was the first one? Drunk? Party? Were you drinking at all? No, just in general? You were drinking UV blue with the girls. Okay. We're the same age, so I'm guessing. Cool. Going off campus a little bit. Nice. Okay. So then, and then you had sex with a guy who was your boyfriend or just like a dude? He was a boyfriend. How long were you together before you gave your flower away? Okay, great. So it was a reasonable amount of time. Was he a dork? Okay, 2 dorks. And then what happened? And then you broke up with him? You broke up with him, let's be honest, right? He broke up with you? My God. This story keeps making turns I didn't expect. Okay, so the dork broke up with you. Okay, that's freshman year. Dropping your self-esteem. Then we start going a little heavier. We switch from UV blue to Svedka. Yes. Okay. We have the handheld ones. What do we call those? Leaders? Fuck you. Handles. I haven't said that in so long. Let's get a handle. Oh my God. Do you remember that? Can we get a handle? Can we hey mister for a handle? Oh my God. And then you do like this and break that thing off, the plastic spout, and then you Okay. So you were doing that? Were you doing this or were you doing this? You were going straight. Okay. Guy dropped down your self-confidence. Grades, did they suffer? They suffered, yes. Dude, I'm fucking nailing it. Good. Okay.
Excited about that.
Guy breaks up with you, breaks your heart, grades suffer, Svedka goes up. Then we're starting to get a little promiscuous. Yes, promiscuous. But we're still using condoms. We were a little nervous about it. Not obvious. Hey, oh. I have never used a condom in my life, okay? Okay, right, I remember the plan B. God, we threw that shit back. Okay, so, all right, that's sophomore year. You go a little willy-nilly.
Did I break it? Wait. Whoop.
Your grades are still holding on, though. Do you switch majors at any point? No, you hold strong in chemical engineering. Okay, you make it to the end. Our notes are still good. The notes, you're in class. Nothing crazy's happening. You're not barfing in public or anything. Are you that friend? You're the friend who helps people to their house, who carries all the stuff sometimes? No, fuck them. You're off. So, okay, we're in whore mode. Okay, you're full whore. You're full smart whore. Okay, great. I love this. I love smart whore. Okay. Then we get to junior year. Do we have any serious boyfriends in junior year? Your husband, here it is. You meet the husband. He is also dork. He's a chemical engineer. He's short. He's a bodybuilder. People, we are going on a ride. That's crazy. Oh my God. This is awesome. You're a freaking junior. You're getting kind of gross, getting a little sloppy. Then you meet him. What's his name? Brian? Ross. You meet Ross? Okay, Ross is jacked at this point. Is he combo chemical engineer and maybe playing a sport? He was in track. Okay, he's running track, also hot. He was doing shot put. We don't know what it's called. We don't care about him that much, but he's on board. Okay, great. Was he doing shot put then? So he'd be like, I have to go to shot put, and we've completely forgotten that was the thing that he did back then? Crazy. Kids change you. That's crazy. Okay. So Ross is now a bodybuilder. He wasn't back then. Okay. He was back then. So he was a bodybuilder, super ripped. Was there any time period where you were like, dude, you're super ripped and I'm kind of a drunk dork? Are you philandering with other women, or was he steadfast? Ross was committed, maybe a little too much. Gave you a little ick a little bit. It was a little icky? Okay. And he'd like bodybuild and stuff, but when he bodybuilds, it sounds to me like it's hot, but to you, you're like, all right. Like sometimes you'd be like, ugh, and you'd be like, come on. It was like that a little? Yeah, a little bit, a little cringe. And he'd like drink the protein shake, and he'd be like, let's calm down. It looks like you have cum on your lip. With the what? Oh, the gallon of water, it's all too much. It's all a little too much. Okay, cool. So you're keeping him checked by being like, you're bitch made, okay? And he's a little bit on a leash. Okay, so then you graduate together. Graduation photos, you're standing together. Your parents are proud of both of you because they've come to parent the other one, right? Very sweet. They've already had time together. Okay, so then you get married how far out of college? 3 years. What happens during that 3 years? Do we fall apart a little bit, get back together? Is there fighting? No, we go strong the whole way. We wake every day, I choose Ross. Yeah? Really? We support each other, we love each other. Looking into each other's eyes, sex life stays pretty steady. Any philandering? Was there any like somebody this? It's no, it's not boring. I like it. It's giving me hope. So then I know. It's actually crazy. Like what you're describing, my life where I'm in an on and off again relationship for 3 years and I want to kill myself, totally regular. Everybody has that. Yours is crazy, bro. So then you get out of college, 3 years, you live together immediately. Okay, you live in a tiny little apartment, it's shitty, right? Okay, he's going to work as a chemical engineer, so are you, work in different places? No competition at all, just supporting each other. Did we get a dog quick, cat? 2 cats and a dog, we did that fast, quicker than the children, okay, great. And then, so we have that, we already know what it's like to care for something together, okay? So all of your friends are the same friends, you all get along really well. You just have thoughts in English that are like, today I put my pants on, that's crazy, okay. Wow, okay. You just never, and he doesn't, you've never been like, hey, I saw this weird thing on your, your computer was still signed in and this person said something, is that weird? And he's like, I thought we trusted each other and now I'm questioning everything. No, we didn't get any, okay. So then, and then, 3 years deep.
Boring, actually. Goes to jail.
Wow, what's up? Jeez, you have those things all the time? Give me a suggestion. Wow. Are those real? You just slam those babies together and leave the house? What's going on? The f***? That's crazy. Wow. How are you doing that? Is there something stuffed in there? Are they fake? Real? God-given? Nice. God giveth and God taketh away. Give me a suggestion. How many do I have to do? 11? How many did Jeremiah do? I want to do them. I want to be here. I'm happy to be here. I drink so much coffee. Go. And I'm not wearing any underwear. What?
Being high in a grocery store.
That's two, what?
Big muscles.
Well, okay, let's go. Okay, I want to do both of those. Getting high at the grocery store used to be my favorite thing to do because you would play keep away. So you would get as high as possible, and you know this game. Try not to make eye contact with anybody who works there, right? And then the checkout, you get to the checkout, and then you have to figure out you get really paralyzed at the thing where you have to put the separator in, right? But then your stuff goes all the way, and then their stuff is right there, and you're like, well, do I keep pushing mine back? Right? I've had that panic before. I've also gotten caught high at Wegmans, is what we have where I'm from, finger fucking the candy bulk section. I've gotten caught there so many times. It's just fucked up because when you're high, like when I'm not high, I still finger fuck it, and somebody, you know what I mean? And they're like, hey, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I would classic sample Jordan, right? But when you're high, you just do, you know what I mean? You'll just be, and they're like, hey, and then you just like try and turn into one of the vaults, and you're like, and they're like, are you trying to make your body into one of the containers? And you're like, oh, dude, get out of here. Have you ever tried that? Just shutting down your eyes and face and ears so people don't see you when you're high? I've done that so many times, just going like this. My mom caught me one time high, and she was fine with me getting high, but I was in her, she was like, whatever, I'm not gonna tell you about my mother, but, well, I remember my best friend facing me, and my best friend was shooting a blunt through one of my nostrils. And I saw my mom walk in behind her, and I just rotated into the corner of the room, so my face like Blair Witch Project. Just thinking that would completely...
Okay, no.
Okay, here's what happened. Last time I did this, I didn't know we weren't allowed to do bits. So I like destroyed. And everybody was like, wow, it's off the dome. And I felt so guilty and my OCD was killing me. So I was like, I need to make this right. So I let Jeremiah spit into my, like a big spit, like a big, large spit into my mouth. And I thought, like, I was like, people have sex. They do that. I have sex sometimes. But the problem was I laid on the ground and then he really, yeah. And by the time it got to me, it was cold. Yeah, it was cold. You don't want that, turns out. And then I threw up instantaneously. So this is my redemption set. I'm trying to... This sucks. I have 2 hours of sleep, and I want you guys to know I just got broken up with like 4 hours ago. Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Hey. Here's the crazy thing. It was by a man. Whoa. Okay. All right, let's go. Hit me with it. Okay, go. Oh. Redemption. Huh? No, Invisalign, that sucks. Although, are they all wearing it on SNL? Have you guys noticed that? It's really crazy. I knew this one girl who was a lesbian, and she hid the Invisalign from her girlfriend. But then her girlfriend just started thinking that she had this really bad drug habit. Because every time her girlfriend would come in, she'd be like, and would pull it out. And then that girl broke up with her because she was like, you're addicted to coke. And really, she was just a little silly goose. So that goes to show you, be honest with people. Why doesn't he love me? Okay, cool. All right, what was another one? Go ahead. People who don't thank you when you hold the door for them. People who don't thank you when you hold the door. I actually am one of those people. You know what? Fuck you for holding the door. I want the whole, you know what's funny? I'm such a bitch. If the door is too heavy, I always open it like this. Doors are made for men. Doors are made for men. But then if somebody's holding it for me, I'm like, I'm as good as a man. I got it. You know what I hate are like the chivalrous guys? Like, you know the dudes who have like, they do exist. They're like 45, shop at Hot Topic sometimes, ooh, and they have like a fedora and a little soul patch. I hate that I'm just describing James Mattern. I don't mean to be doing that. But they have like a Princess Bride poster. I hate those guys. I call them miladies. And they'll like, you know what I'm talking about? They'll hold the door for you and you're like 4 blocks away and you're like, all right, I guess it'll break into a jog. You know what I mean? I hate those. They're the guys who they're like, they watch like corset porn, I'm pretty sure. You know what I mean? They always have like a sword above their doorway and you're like, and you're like, is that a sword up there? And they're like, actually, it's a bow staff and I thought you'd never ask. I got my vagina waxed and I asked for a triangle and now my vagina like looks like one of those guys. Like it's bad. You know what else is funny about the door thing is, you know when you hold the door open and sometimes you just end up being the door person? Huh? Do you do that? Are you that guy? I feel like that shit will make me fucking hostile, dude. Where I'm like, look, I look like a homeless person. You think that I want to be here? Oh, speaking of which, What about the fucking door guy at 7-Eleven? Fuck that guy, right? Dude, fuck that guy. He come in and he's like, here you go, lady. And he has a thing of change and he's like, and I'm like, fuck you, dude. Now I have to give you money or else I'm racist because he's always black, right? I hate that. I also hate, this is fun. I also hate, this is so fun. I hate the lady, you know when you go into the bathroom and there's like a lady like with mints. And you're like, just don't look at her, right? Just don't. And then you go and you like wash your hands and you're like, fuck. And you turn and she's like, nee. And you have to go take it. That's just a fucking homeless person indoors. That's all that is. Pisses me off. She's the same as the 7-Eleven guy. I just realized. All right, I think that's good for that one. Let's get another one. I feel bad. Go. Ew. Teenage babysitters? Why are you asking that? You know about my troubled past? Okay, wait. I like teenage babysitters better than 90s music. What do you mean? What are you talking about? You want me to break out into Alanis Morissette right now? Dude, that's what I need to listen to, actually. Thank you for bringing that up. That's what I'm going to... Did you forget about me, Mr. Duplicity? I used to listen to that as a little kid and be like, hope that... What was the line where it's like, did you think about me? And I remember just being like, when you fuck her, he fucks you. Somebody got fucked. Somebody's getting fucked out there. Remember just getting off on the tiniest things like that as a little kid, just hearing that and being like, nee. Just fucking... Just any fucking movie, just like Aladdin every time. Okay, 90s music. Oh, what did you say though? Teenage. I'm so tired. I'm so tired and sad. Teenage babysitter. I think this. My babysitter. I didn't have a babysitter. It was my sister, and she was a whore and a bitch. She would beat me. She would run my head into the dryer all the time. No, but I think it's funny when you like ask was that the light? That's great. Okay. Like, I have really bad OCD. And I think it's funny when you're like a little kid and somebody's like, you should, fuck. I have said this on stage before. I won't say it. I'm realizing now I've said this, but I'll just say it. That's fine, right? Okay. I just think it's funny when you what? Oh, I'll take another suggestion, but this is just, I just think this is, I've said it like one time. I say everything. Okay. So that's why this is hard for me. I get on stage and I'm like, can you help me with my issues? No, but like, you know when you have OCD and you're like, somebody's like, will you babysit my kid? And you're like 15 and you're like, yeah, what if I like fuck your kid though? You know what I mean? Do you guys ever have that? I think about that all the time. Like anytime somebody's like, hold my baby, I'm like, what if I spin the head off your baby right now? Who's gonna stop me from, who says I'm not that person? Not me, I don't know this bitch, you know what I mean? Yeah, I used to babysit when I was a teenager and I would steal so many snacks. These poor kids, they were too full. And I was just like, you want another peanut butter sandwich, don't you? And they're like, no. And I'm like, yes, you do. Oh, man, I used to fucking eat all their snacks, finger fucking the jam jars. What are we doing? Oh, teenage babysitters. One time when I was a teenage babysitter, I jumped out. My favorite thing is to scare people. It's so fun. I think it's so fun. I can never get enough of it. My favorite scares are when people don't react that much. Like an adult male, if you're like, "Ugh!" and they're like, and they just do like a little like, that's my favorite. I love that. And they're, I love it. But I've been addicted to it since I was younger, and I was babysitting my friend's little siblings, and the little boy rounded the corner, and I went up his body, and he looked at me and just vomited everywhere. It was awesome, dude. I was just hysterically laughing, cleaning up his puke. I'm also puking because of the puke. I'm laughing. Okay, one more. One more. Erectile dysfunction. Interesting that you bring that up. Why do you point to her? Why did you just point to her? Huh? Oh, you saw the pun. Interesting that you bring that up. No, I'm not Mark Normand up here. Jesus Christ. Hey, giving a blowjob is like being on an airplane. It flies and you put it in your mouth. What? In comedy? Okay, sorry. Sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry. I'm in a bad mood. Okay. Erectile dysfunction. I don't know. I think it's funny. Don't you think it's funny how it's like, I feel like in my 20s it was like, you know, you touch a dude and they're like, ugh, and they would come immediately. And as soon as I hit 30, it's just that nothing works anymore. Every one of my buddies is popping Blue Chews if they can figure out how to open the package, which is very... There was no golden age, right? There was no like perfect cock. It was always like a scared one where they're like, sorry. And I hate I don't know what's worse. I guess I take it personally when somebody can't get hard, and that makes it worse, right? Because I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with it? Get it out! Is it me? What do you need me to do? And that's scary. That's not good. I know what you got. Every time I go into that scenario, I'm like, Jordan, just like be cool. Just be like, it's totally fine. I totally get it. You're intimidated. Instead, I'm like, it's the shape of my body, isn't it? It's because I'm shaped like a Lego man. I knew you noticed. I've made dicks go soft doing bits in bed. One guy was like one guy was like yelling at me because I didn't make any sound in bed, and I was like, I don't know what you want me to do. Do you guys, I won't go into that. Okay. That's really hard not to go into a whole bit. Okay. Erectile dysfunction. That's a really good one. Much better than 90s music, no offense. Okay, erectile dysfunction. Yeah, it's better than, I think, okay, I'm thinking about if I had to choose between the two. Yeah, I think I would go, I like the guys who come too quick, but the guys who come too quick think of like they think of like a way out of it where they keep going to the bathroom and being like, I have to pee, right? And then they chill their dick out in the bathroom. Have you guys had that? Have you guys had the mid-sex I have to pee? I'm like, fuck you, dude. You're getting close. I'm chafing. Come, bitch. What the fuck? You're gonna go take a break? Fuck you, dude. Bring back some lube then and a different woman. Motherfucker. I think that's fine. Get up here. Get up here. Oh, man.
Jordan Jensen totally redeeming herself.
Yes. I want to fuck my dad. He's dead, so I can't, but that's the only thing holding me back. You know what we're going to do right now? We're just going to do a small death chunk, okay? My dad, we don't even know how he died. We found him, he used to smoke 11 joints a day. Yep. And we found him curled up on the couch with an episode of The West Wing playing. And a fire going in his fireplace. And he was all curled up like this, and we found him, and we were like, oh, did somebody die from a case of the cozies, huh? Oh, did you get too snuggly bugly, did you? You know what's funny? That he had so much weed and so much Viagra in his house. And when everybody came over for the funeral, I like found it and I hid, for some reason I hid all of the Viagra, like I just stuffed it in my shirt. I didn't care if anybody thought he was like a drug addict, but I was like, they better know his dick got hard, I'm not gonna disgrace his name. His funeral was funny. My mom kept trying to fuck all of his girlfriends, his ex-girlfriends. It was great. Also, why were they there? All of his ex-girlfriends were there, which was tricky because my dad, he fucked. And he fucked a lot of women sometimes at the same time. One girl, I saw go up to another one, and she was like, "Hi, this is such a sad day. My name's Rachel. I dated Jack from the spring of '99 to the fall." And the girl goes, "I also dated Jack in the spring." And I just slid over. I'm all drunk. I'm like, "What are you gonna do? Kill him?" And then I slid away. My mom was there. It was so funny because they were both competing contractors, so they know everybody. It was great. My mom kept going up to the women and be like, "Hey, did Jack ever go down on you? Trick question. My name's Sue Cosentini, and I'll remodel your kitchen." And just, what is happening? Have you guys cremated somebody? Yeah? You cremated? Who'd you cremate? Yeah, you look like my dad. You cremated your dad? You cremated your dad? No, ma'am. That rules. That's awesome that I have such a stature that you're like, "Yes, sir." You have like mutton chops. Nice. How did your dad die? Not sure. Random. Heart attack. That's nice. 2 days is good. I can't be in the hospital at all. I have a giant lump in my vagina, and I refuse to go check it out. My friends are trying to get me to do it, and I'm like, "I'm sorry for asking you to touch it, but I just can't." The amount of my friends, I'm like, "Will you feel this? Is that weird?" I got it checked out once, and she was like, this feels like a gland. She used that speculum thing. God, I'm sick of that thing. Why can't they heat that? Why can't they heat that sucker up a little bit? What's going on? Or, I don't know, put a little lube on it. Why is that not an option? Why does it have to go in? Why is that? Why are the two options just jelly donut or nothing? You know what I mean? I'm like, you've had sex before, do that. Give it a little light coconut oil, my guy. But she goes in, she opens up, and she's like, "This looks like a gland that's been like tugged at." She's like, "Are you tugging? Are you like tugging and pulling at this gland in here?" And I was like, "Yeah, I take a lot of baths, but I take a lot of sad baths, and sometimes I get to tugging." And then she goes, "All right, I need you to just stop doing that." And I was like, "Yeah, no, I need you to kill me. I need you to cut both my hands off. Are you kidding me? You think I'm gonna go home and just be like, 'Don't do that'? That's not what I do. If there's something I can't do, I'm doing it, okay?" Cool. Sorry that your dad died. How are you doing? Are you depressed? You guys don't seem depressed. You all seem totally healthy-minded. Is there anybody who wants to die? It's always the sluts that are like, "Kill me!" Always the sluts here. I've asked each show, and it's always a girl who's like, "Woo!" And I'm like, "Your titties are out. You could start by putting those away. You could start by wiping the crusty cum off your face." What's going on? What's going on, Cheerier? Why do you want to die? What's going on with you guys?
Impending doom.
Always feel it? What do you think is going to happen? Like the world's going to end? God, I would love that. What? Do you take any pills?
Yeah, Paxil.
Paxil. That gave me the sweats. That gave me the meat sweats, and I ate no meat. No, bipolar sucks because when I'm manic, right, that's when I feel fucking incredible, and everybody's like, "Oh, we gotta help her." I'm like, "This is what you prefer? You prefer me taking a lay-down bath? That's what you prefer? Me taking a sit-down bath? Me shaving one of my arms and eating a tub of mustard? You prefer..." There's only two sides. There's depression or manic. So when I'm manic, I'm like, "Let me ride, brother. Let it go." What the fuck? One of my friends was giving me would you rathers. I love would you rathers. And he was like, "Would you rather kill yourself?" And I was like, "Yes, stop you right there. Yes. Stop." Cool. I don't know if you guys get depressed. I don't want to die. Everybody's already pre-dying. Everybody's always already embalming themselves. What's going on? Is that how afraid of death we are? We're stuffing the lip fillers are out of control. Okay, are you guys doing that here? I was just in LA and it's out of control. In New York, it's like less. It's like lip fillers and Xanax. All my buddies, lip fillers and Xanax. I'm like, "Why are you taking all the Xanax?" And they're like, "So I don't freak out." I'm like, "You might want to start freaking out." You're wearing somebody else's face. You look really bad. You look really scary. But I think that's what it is. I think we're embalming ourselves alive because we're so afraid of death. I think we just have to age. We just have to be okay with death and aging. I'm okay with aging. I'm gonna age like a Native American chief. That's what I hope. That's what I hope for. I want to just all of a sudden one day only communicate in Hawk. Just have somebody like, Jordan, where you been? Ah! That's it. I do think that people should be able to kill themselves. I think that there should be a wall of 250 buttons. And if you hit all of the buttons, you get to die. But you have to hit all of them, right? Because then you would have, like, the borderline girls, right? The dumb sluts. The borderline girls would hit a couple buttons, you know what I mean? They'd be like, are you gonna text me back? Are you gonna text me back? Right? And then the depressed girls, you girls, right? You'd get halfway down, you know? You get halfway down, and you'd be like, oh shit, I just need to walk, I feel better, right? And then you would have people like me and Paxel over there just all the way down. So I think that should be how it is. This is fun. I feel better. I want to live a little bit more now. Has anybody ever cremated somebody in here? I think cremation is the way to go. What's the other one? Open casket? Holy shit. Have you guys done that? My lesbian friend had an open casket. She was a big old dyke. And she was super hot, very swaggery. She like was a skateboarder, very cool. She did like the Aladdin like Apple thing, you know what I mean? That's hot. But she had Catholic Italian family. And they put her in a casket surrounded by roses, and they put her in a pink dress. And man, we were all on the line. As soon as I saw her, it took everything in me not to be like, dude, we gotta wake her. I need her to wake up. I need her to see this. Just give me 5 seconds to roast this bitch. Just wake her up. Look at yourself. Look at you. Oh, look at you pretty. That's pretty. And then I'd kill her again. I swear to God, I would kill her again. I swear to God. Wake her up, and I'll kill her again. I promise. She would wake up, see herself die again. It'd be great. She wakes up, just shoots herself in the head, goes back. No, I think cremation is the way to go. Although, here's the thing. When you cremate a person, I don't know if you know this, what I was expecting to get back is like just like a urn about this big, right? Is that what you guys are picturing? No. That's not, what are you picturing? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a duffel bag, dude. It's a box, okay? It's an incredible amount of ash that they give back. It's inappropriate, frankly, okay? I'm like, just throw it away, dude. I think they give you however much your dad weighs plus a little bit of Steve, the guy who went in before him. That's what you're getting. It's wild, dude. It was unbelievable. I was like, what the fuck do you want me to do with this? And the biggest problem is my dad's will is the dumbest shit you've ever heard in your life. It's like, I want my ashes spread in Jamaica off the coast of the Atlantic and a little bit Narnia and shit like that, right? But he left me no money to do so. So now I just have this duffel bag full of ashy guilt, okay? And I've literally been going around illegally throwing handfuls of my father into any pond I can find, all right? Just like fountains and shit. I'm like, he liked them all, right? This is cool. This is fine. And my sister, she found like another part of my dad's will that said that he wants a Viking funeral. Don't clap. I hate you. Man with long hair and beard who thinks you're a Viking even though you work for an app or something, I despise you. We work for a brewery company that makes it if you forget to pay your tab, you can pay it at your house in bed. Is that what you do? What if he said yes? What do you do? Can I ask what you do with a body and face like that? You surf? No, I work in IT. Do you do? I said app development. That's pretty close. What kind of IT? What do you itinerate?
I'm a project manager, but it's mostly network development.
What? Everybody says project manager. That's such bullshit. What is it? Network development? Listen to the words that you're saying. Can you believe that the world that we live in? I connect people. I interface between the A-B exchangers, and I bring them together to create like a network and an orifice where everybody feels interconnected in an intergalactic spatial intelligence. What do we do? People used to go to war, dude. You know what I mean? Somebody invented the fucking sandwich, okay? What do you do, dog? Our generation is fucked up. Are you in therapy? I bet you're also in therapy, IT guy. Isn't it? I was thinking about this. Therapists, if an alien came down and was like, "Oh, nice, you guys have therapists for traumatized people. That's great, like war veterans." And we're like, "No, we actually keep their legs chopped off and leave them outside of banks." And they're like, "Oh my God, who's the therapist for?" And it's like, well, some of us kids, we got really upset when we were younger because our parents didn't cut the crust off, so we gotta see. We have anxious attachment styles. Cool. Project manager for network development. Just eat my whole ass. I'm sorry. I'm in a really bad mood. I'm very depressed. It upsets me. I don't know. It just feels like an ethereal world that we're living in where nothing is tangible and everything's through screens and you know what I mean? It makes you just want to stab somebody. How tall are you? Yeah, that'll ruin a person's personality. Dude, you get beyond 6'2", and you're like, I'm gonna grow my hair out and get a beard. I would like a Viking funeral. I look like a Viking. I should have one. That's so funny. Viking funerals are for Vikings, okay? It drives me crazy that people talk. Okay, here's what a Viking funeral is. It's when a Viking takes another Viking who's dead, puts them on a raft, sends them out to sea, and then lights a flaming arrow and shoots it with accuracy because they're a Viking at the raft and it goes on fire, okay? Now, my dad asked for this. He was not a Viking, he was a tax dodger, okay? Okay, this is a man who, right before he died, his project was he was carving a bear, a big wooden bear. And he was giving the bear a gun. Because he was trying to say, instead of bear arms, to arm bears. That's the man who's like, I want a Viking funeral. I deserve this. So then I was like, all right, sorry. My sister's like, we have to do it. And she was like, no, I got these little boats from Michael's, and we're gonna put the ashes in the boats. She has these. She's as brolic as me, but she has these long fake nails.
search bar is where. If you'd like to learn how to drive a manual in Beamng Drive, then today we're going to learn how to shift manual car in Beamng. Jeez, what is how to shift manual car in Beamng. Stammy, stop doing that.
It's not me talks. It's the new guy.
Boy, knock it off. In this video, we're going to learn how to drive a manual in Beamng the right way, which is going to include how to set up your controls, how to start driving, how to shift up and shift down, and also how to come to a complete stop. The whole idea of what I'm about to show you is so that you can go from being a casual player to being one that is more experienced. So, welcome to Toxic Noise, and welcome to my How to Drive in Beamng series. Next, I'm going to be covering how to drift in Beamng, so if you'd like to see those videos, then you know what to do. But as for right now, let's make sure that your controls are set up to drive a manual. To start off, we're going to hit the escape key, go to options, go to gameplay, and then all of these boxes that I have highlighted need to be unchecked. If you do leave them checked, then the game is going to try and assist you when shifting, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of manual. Next, go to controls, and the search bar is where you're going to start setting up your shifter. If you have an H pattern shifter, then follow this pattern here or this pattern right here. And for example, I can type in first gear, hit this plus icon, assign first gear, and don't forget to hit apply. Then, of course, you do this for all of your other gears, but what if you don't have a shifter? If you're rocking just a wheel, a controller, or a keyboard, then you're going to use shift up and shift down. On a wheel, this should be pretty self-explanatory, but it's right paddle shift up, left paddle is shift down. Then your clutch pedal is the far left one, your brake is the center, and your throttle is on the far right. If you are a controller user, on the other hand, this is the layout that I typically go by. And for keyboard, this is probably the layout that I would use. I wish you the best on this journey, soldier. Last but not least, for controls, if you lay on the brakes and your vehicle starts to go in reverse, that means you need to hit the Q button because you're currently in arcade mode. We want to be in what's called realistic gearbox mode. And now it's time to learn how to drive a manual. Go to West Coast USA, hit escape, go to vehicles, and select the Covette. I said Covette. The reason why I recommend the Covette for learning manual is because it's front-wheel drive, low-powered, and this makes it very intuitive to drive. But it also lacks safety electronics such as traction control and an wheels up if you drive the car too aggressively, and that makes the Covette a very good starting vehicle. So, now that we have our car chosen, let's get into driving a manual. And we want to start stationary because the hardest part is going to be taking off. If we take a look inside of the car, we can see that the parking brake is engaged, which is good, and we want to start off by applying pressure to our brake pedal to ensure that our car is not going to just roll off, because next we're going to disengage the parking brake to make this a little bit more realistic. You can do this by releasing your physical handbrake, or you can tap the throttle, which is automatically going to release the handbrake in game. And now with the parking brake off, the only thing holding our vehicle in place is the brake pedal. But we don't want to let off the brake and just roll around. We want to go into first gear and drive, but you cannot shift the gear unless you press in the clutch. So in goes the clutch, and now we can go into first gear. But don't let off the clutch just yet, because this is the hardest part of driving a manual. Let off of the brake pedal and start adding a little bit of throttle, and at the same time, slowly start releasing from the clutch pedal. Again, off the brake pedal, slowly onto the throttle, and at the same time, slowly off of the clutch. If you do this correctly, the front tire shouldn't spin out, chirp, or the vehicle shouldn't stall. It should begin rolling nice and smooth. If you'd like more of a visual representation like I tend to, as we said before, the parking brake starts off engaged. Then you press the brake pedal, which locks up all of your wheels, and then you can release the handbrake. Our engine at this point is spinning, and it's turning this rod, these two discs, and the end of this rod. So it would be a really bad idea to jam a gear right here because it's going to start grinding against the gear behind the wheel. I know, really accurate representation of a transmission. Definitely a giant gear behind your front tire. That's what this is. But it'll get the point across. So you can press in your clutch pedal, and that's going to disconnect these two discs, allowing you to go into first gear because this rod is no longer going to be spinning with the engine. And for our final step, if the engine dips too far below idle, it's going to stall. So we need to give it some power or give it some throttle, and we need to slowly let off the clutch pedal. But don't release off your clutch pedal for too long because you don't want to roast out your clutch. But you don't want to release off of it so fast that you jar your engine or jar your wheel, because you don't want to roast out your clutch, but you don't want to release off it's going to be spinning with the engine. And for our final step, if the engine dips gear because you can press gear behind your front tire. Disconnect these two discs. Final step, if the engine dips gear because this rod is no longer going to be spinning with the engine. And for our final step, if the engine dips too far below idle, it's going to stall. So we need to give it some power or give it some throttle, and we need to slowly let off the clutch pedal. But don't release off your clutch pedal for too long because you don't want to roast out your clutch. But you don't want to release off your clutch pedal for too long because you don't want to roast out your clutch. But you don't want to release off of it so fast that you jar your engine or jar your wheels. There will be a balance, and ultimately this will take some practice. Now, if you want to make this more difficult, then try doing this while going up a hill. And in this instance, you probably want to leave your parking brake engaged until you get onto the throttle, or else some not so great things can happen. Let's try that without death. So, clutch in, first gear, and this time, be heavier on the throttle while pulling off the clutch and let your handbrake disengage. Or again, if you have a physical handbrake, then you can practice doing this like you would in real life. Slowly adding throttle, letting off of the handbrake, and letting off of the clutch. And the reason why you typically do it this way for hill starts is because you only have 2 feet. So there's going to be a moment where your right foot goes from your brake pedal to your throttle, and that's going to give a moment where your car can roll around. So instead, we can use our free hand on our parking brake as the brake pedal and release that as we start to add some throttle and release the clutch. I recommend letting the game do this for you automatically, but as you start to get the hang of things, I think you should give it a try. Also, you are 100% going to mess this up numerous times, so please don't get frustrated. And before moving on in this video, just put this onto a playlist or bookmark it and come back later. Just take some time to practice. Before we move on to shifting up and shifting down, I do want to state that if you have controller or keyboard, using the clutch is going to be a little bit more difficult because the clutch is either fully pressed in or it's not pressed at all. This means you can't vary it in between and find what is called the bite point. You have to build up your revs a little bit more, drop the clutch, and your front wheels are probably going to chirp. No big deal though, as long as you're having some fun. Anyways, now that our vehicle is rolling and creeping up on the revs, we want to shift into second gear. So let off the throttle, press in the clutch, shift in the second gear, let off the clutch, and press into the throttle. Also, you might notice I'm keeping the engine revs relatively low because I'm saving on engine wear and petrol. By revving your engine up high, you're going to be causing excessive friction and premature failure.
Talks with noise. It's cool to drop bars and ping, 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 ping.
Stammy, what are you doing right now?
Ping, 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 ping. Tech. Oh.
I'm going to move along. As we were, with our vehicle moving along, we now want to come to a complete stop. So apply pressure to the brake, and once the engine dies down to about 1000 revs, get onto the clutch. The 1000 revs rule isn't the same for every single vehicle, so you're going to have to kind of get a feel for what you're driving. Essentially, we don't want the engine to fall below idle because then it's going to try and stall, so we have to use the clutch before that happens. Now that we're coming to a stoplight, we can put our vehicle into neutral, let go of the clutch, and just sit on the brake. The reason why we didn't push the clutch in right off the bat is because we can actually use the engine to start braking the vehicle. With no throttle being added, an engine will start to slow down the driven wheels, and this effect is even greater with higher revs. You may have heard of this referenced to as engine braking, and the reason why engine braking is good is because as your engine is actively stopping the vehicle, it's no longer going to be injecting fuel into the cylinders. If your engine is sitting at idle, it's going to be producing some power, which is exactly what it does as your clutch is pressed in. By riding the engine down to lower revs, we increase fuel efficiency and we also reduce on brake wear, something that's not commonly taught when driving a manual, so if you know why that's the case, then please let me know. And if you'd like to see what it'd be like for other players to take a driving test in Beamng, where one ends up stalling out their vehicle, then feel free to check this video out. I might have had a police officer chase them during this test as well. Anyways, thank you for watching, and hopefully see you in the next video. 8-minute mark, let's go! We are going to cover many Beamng related questions. If you're well adept with Beamng, then please consider bestowing this video upon new players to help them out with numerous roadblocks. The main points we'll be covering are: is Beamng worth it? How to download Beamng Drive, and how to play Beamng multiplayer. We'll also cover many other important subjects, such as what kind of system you'll need, how to play the game, how to set up controls, and how to pay me. I'll place timestamps for easy navigation throughout this video. And if you haven't seen my channel yet, then welcome to Talks with Noise. I have tons of other Beamng related content, so if this video interests you, then please consider subscribing. Firstly, is Beamng Drive worth it? Most people buy Beamng because the game is really well known for its realistic crashing, but in my opinion the game's driving mechanics are very underrated. The physics model is grounded well enough to allow for many different types of driving, and avid players love Beamng for drifting, off-roading tracks, and pretty much anything that is motorsports related. Realistic driving is Beamng's main selling point outside of wrecking, and if you're looking for an all-around good driving simulator, then Beamng is certainly worth it. If you want a visual on something such as off-roading, then I do have a video to showcase it. In terms of Beamng's gameplay, it's very drop and drive. You choose one of the current 16 existing maps, and there are over 30 custom vehicles with a seemingly infinite number of variants, and upon choosing from those, you drive. That's the gist of this game. It's driving, and even though it sounds pretty simple, you can spend weeks or even months trying to not seem like a monkey behind the wheel. Wait a minute. A freaking monkey driving? What the? If you want a little extra, you can download mods from Beamng's repository, and all of the repository mods are developer approved. Most of the mods consist of different vehicles and even more crazy maps to choose from. There are pages upon pages of mods, and the list continues to grow as more people submit their creations. The fact that we can download approved mods from Beamng without going to a shady website is a big thumbs up from me. But what about the cons? Well, Beamng does have a dated feel to it, and navigating through the menus is sometimes difficult to figure out. Customizing keybinds? Well, see you next year. Changes take forever to apply. Racing is also very, let's just say the AI looks at you through the eyes of Mike Tyson. But it is highly likely that we'll be seeing improvements as the development team is expanding and we're getting more solutions introduced to the game. If you're looking for some structured gameplay, then there is some indie style content. Scenarios, for example, are a collection of mini games similar to old console game objectives. You can think of Tony Hawk Pro Skater missions, but with cars and less Tony Hawk. There are also campaigns, and they continue to maintain the same minigame feel. Light Runner and Time Trials are time trials to improve working on lap times, and this little multiplayer box, we'll get to that later on. So back to the main point. Is this game worth $25? 20 pounds, 23 euros, 185 yen are a few boxes of Sugar Swirl cereal. Well, if what I mentioned sounds interesting, then yes. If you want to give Beamng a try, you may be wondering, how do you download Beamng Drive? For starters, Beamng Drive is only available for computers. You can find Beam on Humble Bundle, but the majority of people, including myself, get it off of Steam because once the updates drop, they are immediately available. Based on what other people have said, it takes Humble about a month for an update to process, but they also raise money for charity, so that's up to you. Because I have Steam, I'll be showing you how to get Beamng Drive there. And if you're new to Steam, it's just like downloading GameStop to your computer, where you can go in, buy games, download them, and play them. And in case you can't find it on the internet, then you can find it through the link that I provided in my description. There you can install Steam to your computer just like any other program, make an account, and then open Steam on your computer. Once you are on Steam and logged into your account, you can go over to Store, click on the search, and then type beamng.drive. Click on the game and then click add to cart, and then make sure you purchase it for yourself and then enter in whatever purchasing information that you have. Once you have purchased the game, you can find all of the games you own through the library tab, which is where you'll find Beamng Drive, and you can click on install. And whenever the game is downloaded, you can begin to play it. If you don't want to open Steam every single time to play Beamng Drive, then you can right click on Beamng, hover over manage, and then click add desktop shortcut, which as you imagine will make a desktop shortcut. But before you download Beamng Drive, make sure that your computer can handle it. It's not the most demanding game, but you'll need something equivalent to at least a potato. But what exactly do you need to run Beamng Drive? Certainly you'll need a computer, not a console, and you'll need at least 8 gigabytes of RAM. You will also need a CPU that is better or equal to a Ryzen 7 1700 and a GPU that is equal or better to an R9 290 or a GTX 970. In other words, what? Let's try to simplify this. To determine if your computer meets minimal requirements, go to your computer search bar and type in system information. If you are using Mac, then I am sorry to tell you that you probably can't even play Beamng. Damn it, Steve Jobs. In system information, you can see how much RAM you have installed. Here I have 32 gigabytes because video editing makes your computer cry, but within Beamng, I don't even use half of that. But can our CPU and GPU handle Beamng? Well, the system information window says that my CPU is a Ryzen 7 5800X, and if I go to Passmark CPU, which the link is in the description below, I can find this little CPU window and type my information there. If the score of your CPU is above a 14,800, then it should be good to run Beamng. For speccing out your GPU, you can go over to System Information, then go over to Components, click on Display, and find your system's GPU. Next, navigate over to Passmark GPU, which is again found in this video's description, and you can enter in your video card's information into the Find Video Card search. If your GPU score is above an 8,300, then you should be alright for Beam, but of course if you're building a PC, then more headroom is always better, and that's with all components. With an 8,300, you'll probably be lowering your graphics settings, but honestly, I don't think that takes away from the core experience of Beam. And if your GPU happens to be built into your CPU, then you can type in your CPU's information into the GPU section of Passmark, but unfortunately, it's probably not going to come close to the minimal 8,300 requirement. In terms of storage, I would go for 50 gigabytes, and I would recommend using a solid-state drive as I would with any game. If that's all set, then you should be good to run Beamng Drive. If you are using a laptop, a Nintendo DS, or a Leapfrog, everything that I've said here applies, so please watch this video again if you've missed anything before asking questions. If you see somebody in a Beamng chat asking about computer specs, then smite them with this video along with a timestamp. I think it could help quite a few people. Next up, how do you play Beamng Drive? On the main menu, you can find this icon called Free Roam, which is where the majority of players spend their time. And amongst the selection of maps, the best one you can start out on is one called Grid Map V2, because it's wide open, but it still has some obstacles to try and avoid. And just as a heads up, it takes forever to load into maps as it does with many other games. Once you're in the game, you can use the up arrow to begin driving, left and right to steer, and the back arrow to stop or to reverse. If you want to try your hand at drifting, then you can hit the space bar to pull your handbrake, which will lock up your back wheels. But if it's your first time playing, then who cares about control, because your primal instincts will direct you right into a wall for that crunchy goodness. And here's a pro tip. If you want to reset, you can press R to do it again, and again, and again, and again, and again. And because I imagine you would get annoyed with respawning in the exact same location, you can reset your home position by pressing Control and Home. And then you can also access that home position by pressing Home or R. Pressing the Insert key will also just flat out reset your vehicle. If you get bored of using the truck, you can use the Escape key, go over to the Vehicles tab, and then choose a different vehicle, which you'll probably choose something that's faster so that you can slap a wall at higher speeds. But once you get bored of Cargo Crash, you might find yourself trying to control your vehicle and try to start driving it around. And just so you know, when you're driving at high speeds in Beamng, the vehicles don't like to turn. Sure, it starts to feel like you're driving on ice, but that's because you're controlling a vehicle with a keyboard and you're also driving like an ape. Controlling your vehicle in Beamng is the tip of the iceberg, and unfortunately for those with a low temper and a low attention span, that is the end of the iceberg, because now we're going to cover realistic shifting, which may very well be the end of your iceberg, because now the pain will begin to worsen, as there are many newbie-friendly features that you can begin to strip away and reveal Beam's true colors. To enter into the world of manual shifting, you have to go to the Vehicle tab and choose a vehicle with the letter M next to it, which of course stands for manual. If you have already done this, then you have noticed that the vehicle behaves just like an automatic, but that's because the handicap features are currently enabled. To disable these features, go to Menu, click on Options, then head over to Gameplay where you'll find Gearbox Safety Assistant. And because you like living on the edge, you're going to turn that off. By pressing Escape, you can get back to your vehicle, and then you can press Q, which starts to bring on the pain. Press Z to downshift and X to upshift, and you'll notice that the clutch is automatically engaging and disengaging for you. And of course, that doesn't happen in real life, so we're going to strip away that feature here in a second. But as of right now, with that feature enabled, it's a good idea to start practicing how to increase your speed, and also more importantly, decreasing your speed without over-revving your engine. And no, this is not the sound that you want to be aiming for. Once you think you have gotten manual shifting figured out, I'm here to tell you that you have figured out the easy part. Now we're going to enter into a mode that most keyboard players wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. By hitting Escape, going over to Options, and then going over to Gameplay, you can find the clutch assistant and disable it. And now your clutch no worky by itself. But if you press the shift key, it'll disengage the clutch and allow you to shift through gears without damaging them. Granted, you have to give enough time for your clutch to engage and disengage. As for these very annoying artificial gear grinding sounds that you get whenever you damage your gears, the damage model is being upgraded. And just a note of encouragement here, you will be stalling your vehicle multiple times, so use the V key to start your engine, and also make sure that you're pressing the shift key to disengage your clutch when you're starting your engine. Or the most common practice is to stick your vehicle into neutral. If you do practice and master true manual keyboard shifting, then welcome to the 1%. After you've given up on shifting, you can start trying out various other maps, and you can add life to other maps by enabling traffic. To enable traffic, you want to go to this radial menu, which is done by pressing escape. Go to the microchip, go to the traffic light, and then go to the single vehicle, and then voila, you have now spawned in mini Texas drivers. And from this point on, you can do as you please. Some players like to abide by the traffic laws, and I like to throw myself around like it's my last time driving. It's all tons of fun, and of course in that radial menu there's other options to try out, such as police chases, and of course having every vehicle chase you. I said fun. This is not fun. With all of the mentioned gameplay, it's important that we go over controls for Beamng, which is all listed under the controls panel, which holy crap, there's a lot. I'll list the most important ones in this video. As had been previously mentioned, the arrow keys will allow you to control your vehicle, V will allow you to turn your vehicle on and off, spacebar will allow you to pull your parking brake, shift will allow you to disengage your clutch, Z shifts down, X shifts up, insert key will reset your vehicle, control home sets a home position, and home will allow you to go back to that home position. Now for some unmentioned controls. You can press shift and press C in order to get into something called free cam. While you're in free cam, you can right click to look around and use W, A, S, and D to move the camera around the map. Pressing shift while doing these movements will allow your camera to move faster. You can also adjust your camera speed by using Alt and using the scroll wheel on your mouse. The reason why free cam is so important is because you can fly to different sections of the map, and then you can press F7 to make your vehicle spawn in. The vehicle will drop exactly where your camera is at, and then you can use the 1 and 2 key to get back to your vehicle. There are a ridiculous number of keybinds for Beamng, so if you're looking for something specific, you can always look in the controls panel, but these tend to be the most essential. If you get yourself Beamng Drive, at very minimal, try to get yourself a controller, and if you don't mind shelling out extra money, then definitely go for a wheel. Once you get the previous sections of this video figured out, it's a good idea to give multiplayer a try, and that's right, Beamng does have a multiplayer feature. At the moment, it's not officially supported, but it is easy to access. To install Beamng multiplayer, go to the Beamng link that I have in this video's description. Click on download client and begin installing it like any other program. Once the Beamng launcher icon is located on your desktop, you can click on it to run it, and it'll sync up with your Beamng installation. When Beamng launches, it'll take you to a main menu screen that's very similar to Beamng's, except you have an icon that says multiplayer. Once you click on multiplayer, try and make yourself an account, or else the game is just going to appoint you a name that's called guest with a variation of numbers. Other than that, you can sort through servers and you can join other players. I would stick to official servers because I think you could potentially download a virus from a server that has a bunch of mods on it. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think that's a possibility, so just something to note. Anyways, I think I covered everything that I wish I had known whenever I started Beamng. And something I'd like to point out in case you're new, I release Beamng videos every single Friday, so if you happen to be going through a lot of my videos and you enjoy them, then please consider subscribing. And for those who have long awaited, I also happen to have stuck up a new Discord server, which you can find down in the description below. YouTube channel members will get priority over events, but I'm hoping that doesn't become an issue for quite a while. Again, thank you guys so much, and wait a minute. Tossboy420 became a member under the bankrupt driver option. Why? You could buy so much ramen with $25, or you could buy Beamng a second time. Toss, I'm not going to spend your money wisely. Probably a bathtub full of ramen. No, but honestly, thank you guys for becoming a member, and thank you to everybody who has subscribed. I never would have imagined this happening 90 days ago, but here we are. I will try my best to stay on schedule, and until then, see ya. Bye-bye.
Mods are, as you know, an incredibly important part of Beamng, and with there being around 700 new mods released each year on the official repository, it can be difficult to know which ones you'll enjoy the most. In this video, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the best mods the community has to offer. From realistic physics mods that'll make you question if you're still in a virtual world, to detailed maps that are simply not gonna let you get bored, I've got it all covered in today's video, and stick around till the end because I'm not only breaking down the top mods in various categories, but I'm also crowning the undisputed champion of the mods, which I honestly think is gonna leave a huge mark on the world of Beamng. So let's start with sound mods, a category that hasn't been getting as much attention as some others, but I think it is definitely equally as important. Sound can change the whole feel of the game, and considering that the sound design in Beamng isn't exceptionally good, these mods absolutely make the game better. There's one mod which I liked in particular, and that is the Engine Sound Remaster by Sourdisk. This mod adds a new sound to around 20 of the in-game cars, and some of them, like for example the inline 6-cylinder or the inline 4, are a major improvement in comparison to the original sounds. Those were pretty good, right? I did make a video on this mod if you wanna check it out, but in my opinion the award of the best sound mod shouldn't only go to one single mod, because there's this guy called Hellraiser999 who's one of the most well-known sound modders in Beamng, and he made numerous engine sound mods which all sound so realistic that the award for the best sound mod has to go to all of Hellraiser's mods. He makes replicas of real engines, and I don't know how he does it, but it always matches exactly with the actual sound of the engine in real life. And that's not even all of it. He has 13 different sound mods right now, and there are many more coming, and also, all of these engine mods include a realistic transmission to go with it, which makes the experience even better. As the second category for today, we have funny mods. Now, picking the winner wasn't all that difficult, because this car, or at least a car similar to this one, actually exists, and considering that it's also a very funny car in real life, putting it in Beamng makes it even better. It is the Bog B50 by Nekid, based on the actual Peel P50, and the reason why this mod is so funny? Well, it's just a bit smaller than usual. But in this category there are many more contenders, such as the Lego car by Agent Y, which is actually really well made. It includes a lot of configurations, and yes, it does break into individual pieces. Or for example the Flying Pigeon by Drowsy Sam, which is just amazing. I mean, it's an Ebishu pigeon with wings. Or the Part Randomizer by Angelo234, which gives you a very unique configuration every time you press a button. I had to decide for the B50 in the end though, because this mod is still in early access, but I think it's already quite refined.
C'est un grand plaisir de vous accueillir ce soir à l'Institut Périmètre. Pour ce qui nous sommes sûrs, sera une présentation fascinante. By its very design, Perimeter Institute was created to be a place to gather and to connect, where people can come together like we're doing tonight, and ask the big questions about the universe, and search for the big answers. This year, we are celebrating 25 years of Perimeter Institute. 25 exceptional years of bringing people together from all paths. Researchers, students, teachers, and the general public to explore the fascinating world of physics. But people on this land have been asking big questions about the universe for thousands of years. The quest to understand the world around us and to wonder what sits beyond the horizon is a human constant throughout the ages. We acknowledge that Perimeter is situated on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Neutral peoples, and is located on the Haldimand Tract, the tract granted by the British to the Six Nations of the Grand River and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Nous saluons et remercions les divers peuples qui nous ont précédés et nous engageons à agir de manière responsable et collaborative pour faire avancer la quête du savoir pour le bien de tous. Et nous remercions les Anishinaabe, les Haudenosaunee et les Neutres pour leur accueil. We acknowledge and thank the many people who have preceded us and share this land with us, and we commit to moving forward in a spirit of reconciliation, to acting responsibly and collaboratively, to advance the quest for knowledge for the benefit of all. And I hope you will join us in this endeavor tonight and all throughout our 25th year. We would like to take a moment to say thank you to the people who make events like these possible. Thank you to all of our supporters who help us to engage and inspire young minds, train and support educators, share science with the general public, and help bridge the knowledge gap in science. If you'd like to join our growing community of friends and supporters, please visit our website to learn more. For those watching the live webcast, please join the conversation online either through the YouTube comments or connecting with us at Perimeter Institute on Instagram. If you have a question for our speaker, you can ask it with the hashtag #PILive. As those of you in the building may have noticed, Perimeter is currently hosting an exhibit dedicated to the work of Galileo. This exhibit focuses on Galileo's research and discoveries that led to modern geolocation. The technology we use every day, and that you may have used to get here tonight if you use map navigation on your phone to find Perimeter. This staging represents the first time the exhibit has traveled outside of Europe, and we are honored to host it here at Perimeter, and we're thankful to the Italian Embassy in Canada for making this possible. As part of this 2-week public event, we're so pleased to have a distinguished modern-day Italian physicist here to speak tonight, Dr. Carlo Rovelli. Dr. Carlo Rovelli is a theoretical physicist with research interests in loop quantum gravity, relational quantum mechanics, and the history and philosophy of science. He is affiliated to the University of Aix-Marseille, the Philosophy Department of the Western Ontario University, the Santa Fe Institute for Complexity, and he is a distinguished visiting research chair at the Perimeter Institute. He is an honorary professor of the Beijing Normal University, honoris causa laureate of the Universidad de San Martin, Buenos Aires, and a member of the Académie Internationale de Philosophie des Sciences. In addition to scholarly publications, Carlo Rovelli is also the author of a number of popular science books. His 2014 book, 7 Brief Lessons on Physics, has been translated into 41 different languages and remains one of the best-selling science books of all time, with over 1 million copies sold. His most recent book, White Holes, offers a mesmerizing trip to the strange world of extreme physics. He has been included in the 2019 list of 100 most influential global thinkers by Foreign Policy magazine, and in the 2021 list of the world's top 50 thinkers by Prospect magazine. He has written global bestsellers translated into more than 40 languages. Among his awards are the 1996 Xanthopoulos Award for the Best Relativist Under 40, and the 2024 Lewis Thomas Prize for writing about science. Tonight, he will guide us on a trip towards and into a black hole and what might be on the other side. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Dr. Carlo Rovelli.
Wow, full house. Can't see a single empty seat. Well, thank you all of you for being here, and thank you Herman for this wonderful, too kind introduction. I'm particularly thankful to PI because being invited here in the quarter of a century of PI. I've been here for back and forth, but for all these 25 years. I was here at the very beginning. In fact, I was even here before the beginning because I participated to the early discussions of how to create a new institute. Was a great experience. Was fantastic. I remember this first years, not in this beautiful building. It didn't exist at the time, but on the sort of red brick tower in King Street in Waterloo. There was Rob Myers, of course, has been later director, Lee Smolin, who's one of the inspiration forces of the birth of PI. This fantastic spirit of create a completely new research place where, you know, imagination, intelligence, freedom of research could run free and fine. And about 25 years later, here we are in this great, fantastic place, which is PI. So thank you for existing, PI. Good. So now to business. I'm going to talk about. It's very hot here. Do you mind if I just burning? Now I'm going to make. Can you still hear me? Okay, good. So I take my shoes. Sorry, maybe it's that, you know. I'm told that scientists are allowed to do what they want, so I just take advantage of it. So I'm going to talk about black holes, but let me start by putting this into the big picture. And I want to start from here. From Copernicus to Newton, sort of late Renaissance, all the way to the beginning of the Enlightenment, there have been this major event, which is the great scientific revolution, the revolution of thinking that has given rise to modern science. Science existed before, but the change that has happened at that time has been major, has influenced Europe profoundly, and then the rest of the world equally profoundly. There's been long. There's been a century and a half from Copernicus' book to Newton's book. And during that long revolution, our way of thinking about humankind way of thinking about what is reality, what is matter, what is space, what is time, what are things, how things happen, have been changed very profoundly. From we being in the center of a universe, Earth and heavens being completely separated, things happening because of magic influence, angels pushing, whatever, to what we call modern science. I believe that the revolution in physics of the 20th century, quantum mechanics on the one hand, and everything we tie to the name of Albert Einstein, and his revolutionary understanding of space and time on the other, so led to the theory of general relativity, is an equally radical modification of our understanding of the world, which is already changing, but hasn't yet completely changed our civilization, probably as much, we don't know, but I think it's going to change our civilization as much as the great scientific revolution of the Renaissance. That revolution evolved into enlightenment, into the industrial revolution, into modernity, its complexity. What this revolution is going to bring us to, we don't know. It's going on. But these things are going slowly. Sometimes we think that science happened very rapidly, discovery over discovery. No, science, I think, is slow, and ways of thinking the world, the way of conceptualize the world, evolve slowly through discussion. And the current revolution isn't finished yet. That one took a century and a half, I said. This one started in the early 20th century. Quantum mechanics is in the 20s, 100 years ago. We're celebrating also the 100 years of quantum mechanics this year. And these two theories haven't been yet combined. So we're really in the halfway to the woods in this change of rethinking the universe. General relativity by itself without quantum mechanics doesn't make any sense, and quantum mechanics by itself without general relativity doesn't make any sense. They're clearly both wrong in some sense, which is not clear. And the effort of completing the revolution, it's ongoing. It's one of the things which is motivating a lot of research in fundamental physics, bringing together these two partial steps in understanding the world. Now, halfway of the Renaissance revolution, Galileo Galilei was several generations after Copernicus, but was just before he died when Newton was born. Galileo Galilei is a towering figure, perhaps one of the greatest, maybe the greatest with Newton, of the characters of that revolution. He contributed in all sorts of manners. He invented experimental physics, mathematical physics on Earth. He invented all sorts of things. But one of the most impressive things he did is, if you have been to the exhibition, the Galileo exhibition, a couple of rooms that way, was to use the telescope, was recently invented, to ameliorate it and start a campaign of observation of the sky, which opened up marvels in the sky, the satellites of Jupiter, the ring of Saturn, the phases of Venus, the craters of the moon, the spots of the sun. I mean, he just saw things out there that nobody had seen before. And that had a huge impact. In fact, very rapidly had a huge impact, because a lot of people looked through the telescope and could see what he was saying. Some people wouldn't see, tried but couldn't see anything. But some people would, a lot of people would see. And his books, his impact was enormous. Why? Because, I mean, this humankind opened a window and looked out and found new things, okay? And these new things, on the one hand, were a major element of support for Copernicus' view of the world. So the Earth spinning and going around the sun, rather than the Earth being the center of everything. Somehow they were fitting much, much better with the Copernicus view than the Ptolemaic view, the previous view that was in place for 2 millennia around the Mediterranean. On the other hand, they also, these discoveries, these new things in the sky they were seeing, were also crucial for going ahead and trying to complete the Copernican revolution, making a coherent picture of reality, which Copernicus didn't have, because the physics at the time was still the Aristotelian physics. Not because Aristotelian physics was a dogma, because it was best available at the time. And Copernicus changed everything. Aristotelian physics wouldn't fit with Copernican revolution, so Galileo gave, at the same time, a confirmation of Copernicus and tools with which Newton could bring everything together, this marvelous synthesis that is in his book, and the Principia, and which is the ground on which so much of modern science is based. Now, why I'm saying that? Because these things, black holes, are playing today a very similar role to what Galileo saw in the sky played at the time. These are a surprise for us, even for people who studied general relativity at school. I studied black holes at school when I was at university, except that the book was saying these probably don't exist. My teacher, so never believe in books that you study at school. Study them, because there was very good description of black holes, but then there was a conclusion that was completely wrong. It was not a bad book, right? It was a fantastic book, written by one of the greatest scientists, Steven Weinberg, Nobel Prize, genius, and yet he had it wrong. So don't believe in books. What I was saying is that this incredible things, which are black holes, which the astronomers, like Galileo centuries ago, have seen with this picture and with other. This is not the only evidence we have about black holes. We have a large amount of gravitational waves, radio signals, all sorts of astronomical things. Now we know these things are there, and we know that these kind of things are the best understood as what my book was calling black hole and was saying they don't exist. Namely, as a special solution of Einstein theory. And the beautiful thing is that, Einstein wrote this equation in 1915. He couldn't understand what is the own equation. Well, it took a long time to figure out what the equation predicted, but through many people, Schwarzschild, Finkelstein, blah, 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 Roger Penrose, and so on, it became more and more clear that the theory predicts this funny object, which are black holes. And these black holes would show themselves in some phenomena. One of these is this funny shape here. And now we have found all these phenomena, these rings and all sorts of the other phenomena. So black holes are a confirmation of Einstein's theory, and at the same time, and that's where I wanted to get at, they are a tool and possibly our best door for going beyond general relativity and for telling something about this open problem, which is general relativity and quantum mechanics together. Because inside this black hole, or in the future of this black hole, there are precisely situations which cannot be accounted for, described with general relativity alone, nor with quantum mechanics alone. We need the two of them. So I want to tell you now two things. First, what we know about black holes, the solid part, the reliable part of our knowledge, up to the way where we go into the part we don't know, but that's the most interesting one, which is the one where quantum mechanics and general relativity come together. I spent my life in trying to build a theory of quantum mechanics and general relativity together, a theory of quantum gravity. So I will tell you about this theory and how it plays a role into black holes. Just before jumping toward the black holes and this explanation, one thing, careful, bringing together quantum mechanics and general relativity, completing the revolution, has nothing to do with the problem of writing the theory of everything, the final theory of physics, the unified theory of everything. These are two independent problems. The final theory of everything, well, who knows, my grandchildren maybe. I think the universe is still too mysterious for hoping for a final theory of everything. We don't have a theory of everything. The attempts to write it down has found very bad no for nature. I think we're very far. There are so many things in the universe we don't understand. But the effort of putting together what we have understood about quantum mechanics, that we have understood about general relativity, that's a world-posed problem that we have to solve. Good. So, let's go toward this object, and let me tell you what we know and what we suspect about black holes. That's it's going to be my black hole. Because that's, I needed something round. So a black hole is something round, essentially, whose size is, most black holes around us that we have evidence for are much bigger than this, but not too big, sort of a few kilometers like London, this London, London, where I spend most of my time, or Waterloo. But very, very massive. But the black hole much bigger than this, in fact, much, much bigger. This one, Sagittarius A star, is in the center of our galaxy. It's million times bigger. So in mass, which is probably the size of, astronomical size of the orbit of the Earth, I don't know, something like that. But there are black holes that are 1 billion times bigger, so colossal things, immense things. These are black holes we have evidence of. Maybe there are smaller ones. Maybe there are black holes of this size, or maybe teeny ones. We don't know. There's no reason for believing that they don't exist. If somebody says don't exist, remember my book that said no black hole exists. And just they have the size they are. They're very massive, right? So black hole of this size would be more massive than the Earth. So to make a black hole, you have to squeeze a mass in a very, very small region. If we imagine we go there, and that's what I want to do. The title of this thing is coming into a black hole. And I need your attention, your imagination, because this is going to be a trip of imagination, and also your being ready to accept that reality is very different than what usually look around us. So imagine that we're in a starship together, this building is a starship, we're flying toward black hole, and say we're flying toward this one, which is one we know better because we have a picture of it. This is the center of the galaxy, this is Sagittarius A star. So we fly there, we go there, and what we see? Well, basically, obviously, we see that, because that's an image which is taken with a group of telescopes, very complicated, but if you are close, that's what we are going to see. In fact, we're going to see, the way to interpret this is that this is a ring, a red ring, badly out of focus. If when we go there, we're going to see the same, but much more sharply in focus. It's going to be a clearly defined red ring. Now, let me tell you why we're going to see that. First of all, it's not that around the hole there is just a ring of things, because if there was a ring, we would see like the ring of Saturns. We would see sometimes just like that, sometimes just a line, okay? No, black holes, you see the ring from whatever direction you look at it. You always see a ring. Why? Because this ring is not a thing. This ring is a optical phenomenon. It's like a rainbow. It's completely optical phenomenon. And it's not the light of a black hole, it's the light of a lot of stuff around it, but which is all over around it. And the reason we say a ring, it's the following. One of the consequences of Einstein's theory is that not only masses are attracted by gravity, but also energy. You know, Einstein E is mc squared, so whatever energy does, mass does, whatever mass does, energy does. So mass falls, energy also falls. And so light has no mass, but has energy, so also falls. So it's attracted by the black. It's also attracted by the sun. But the sun, it's very big, given the mass. So even if some light comes very close, it's attracted a little bit, deviates a little bit. In fact, this was one of the, measuring that was one of the first evidence that Einstein was right. But a black hole is very, very massive. So given the mass, it's very small. So when the light comes very close, it's attracted a lot. So much that you can do a simple calculation, it's done in all classes of GR, and light can be in orbit around a black hole. So you can flash some light and just goes in orbit. This orbit is at some given distance from the black hole, fixed distance from the black hole, sort of 1.5 to 3 times its radius, something like that. 1.5 times its radius, something like that. And so this means that light can go
that really what needs to happen is your partner needs to change, because that is not how it works for
con la fenomenología realmente responsables de lo que hagamos, precisamente porque no podríamos haber hecho algo diferente, no teníamos ninguna otra opción abierta. Estaba determinado que yo hiciera esto, yo lo hice, por tanto, ¿qué culpa tengo? ¿Tú opinas esto? Pues quédate, porque la historia que te voy a contar en este vídeo puede que haga que te replantees todo este asunto de arriba a abajo. El compatibilismo es esa posición en filosofía que considera que libre albedrío y determinismo son en realidad compatibles. De ahí el nombre.
Menuda imaginación la de los filósofos para inventarse nombres.
La objeción principal a la que se enfrenta el compatibilismo es que entra en conflicto con una cosa que se llama el principio de posibilidades alternativas. ¿Qué dice este principio? Pues básicamente que para ser realmente libre y moralmente responsable de lo que hago, tendría que haber podido actuar de manera diferente a como lo he hecho. Para ser libre tengo que tener posibilidades alternativas abiertas, tengo que poder hacer esto o lo otro, tomar esta decisión o no tomarla. Pero si está escrito que yo tenía que hacer esto, si era realmente imposible imposible que no lo hiciera, entonces, según este principio, pues ni he sido libre al hacerlo ni soy moralmente responsable de haberlo hecho, porque al fin y al cabo no estaba en mi control hacerlo o no. En 1969, el filósofo Harry Frankfurt publicó un artículo, Alternate Possibilities and Moral Responsibility, que puso en jaque justamente esta idea. ¿Cómo? Poniéndole un contraejemplo. La historia de una persona que no podía haber actuado de modo distinto a como lo hizo y que no obstante parece que actúa libremente y con responsabilidad moral. Este tipo de contraejemplos se conocen en su honor como casos de Frankfurt. Aquí va uno. Te presento a Juan, un científico malvado, por eso lo he dibujado con bata.
Tienes una habilidad para el dibujo que revoluciona el mismo concepto del arte.
Juan se la tiene jurada a Pedrito y por eso lo quiere matar. Vamos, o sea, odia a Pedrito con todo su ser. Pero este es el caso. Juan no quiere matar a Pedrito él mismo, ¿vale? Es un poco cobarde para eso. Otro día conoce a Gilberto, ¿de acuerdo? Que es esta persona de aquí. Aunque los tres se parezcan mucho, no están relacionados entre sí, no son hermanos. Gilberto resulta que también odia muchísimo a Pedrito, porque una vez Pedrito lo miró mal y además porque a Pedrito le gusta Descartes y no sé qué. Voy a matarte. Gilberto le cuenta a Juan que se está planteando matar a Pedrito, pero que todavía no lo tiene del todo claro. Viendo la oportunidad de su vida, Juan va a casa de Gilberto mientras este duerme y le instala un microchip en el cerebro, ¿de acuerdo? Es decir, aquí hay un microchip instalado por Juanito. Wow, mis dotes de dibujo son impresionantes. Lo que va a hacer este microchip es monitorear la actividad cerebral de Gilberto y si detecta en él la más leve inclinación a perdonarle la vida a Pedrito, se va a activar y va a hacer que se desencadenen en su cerebro los procesos necesarios para que Gilberto mate a Pedrito. Bien, finalmente resulta que Gilberto, reflexionando mucho sobre este asunto, toma la decisión de matar a Pedrito, va a buscarlo a la calle, le pega una paliza y, yo qué sé, le revienta la cabeza con la fenomenología del espíritu de Hegel y hay mucha sangre por todas partes, ¿vale? O sea, sangre por aquí, un cuchillo aquí en el estómago también, sale mucho. Sangre por todas partes. Pero muy importante, el microchip no se ha activado en ningún momento. No se ha activado, no ha hecho nada el microchip, ¿vale? Porque no ha detectado en Gilberto ninguna leve inclinación a perdonarle la vida a Pedrito.
Escribe F en los comentarios por el pobre Pedrito.
Por cierto, Leónidas, esto va a sonar muy raro, ¿vale? Pero mira, te he comprado esto. O sea, no sé ni por qué lo he hecho, no es ni tu cumpleaños ni nada, pero al despertarme pues he sentido como la necesidad imperiosa de comprarte algo, de hacerte un regalo. No he podido evitarlo y lo he hecho.
Muchas gracias, humano. Funcionó. Menudo pringao.
Y todo este experimento mental, ¿a qué viene? ¿Qué es lo que nos está intentando transmitir? Enseguida lo vemos, pero dale antes un buen like a este vídeo porque eso me ayuda un montón y además, oye, no sé, no te plantees siquiera si lo haces libremente porque es que, a saber, ¿vale? Tú hazlo y ya está. Y ahora sí, la pregunta del millón. ¿Es Gilberto moralmente responsable de lo que ha hecho? ¿Ha actuado libremente? A priori parece que sí, ¿verdad? Recordemos que el microchip no ha hecho nada. Pero entonces tenemos un problema porque Gilberto en realidad no tenía otra opción que matar a Pedrito. O mataba a Pedrito o mataba a Pedrito. Kill him. Do it. No tenía posibilidades alternativas abiertas. Este resultado estaba escrito. No podía Gilberto haber actuado de manera distinta. Si hubiera nacido en él el pensamiento de perdonarle la vida a Pedrito, pues el microchip se hubiera activado y lo habría matado igual. Supongamos que Gilberto descubre la existencia del microchip, lo atrapa la policía y lo llevan a juicio. ¿Alguien se lo tomaría en serio si se defendiera diciendo que tenía un microchip en la cabeza y que en realidad no podría haber actuado de manera distinta a como lo hizo? No, porque recordad, el microchip no se ha activado, no ha hecho nada. Si se hubiera activado, entonces vale, no consideraríamos moralmente responsable a Gilberto. En su lugar culparíamos a Juan. Pero el microchip no se ha activado. Podría haberse activado, sí, si hubiera detectado en Gilberto la inclinación a perdonarle la vida a Pedrito. Pero no ha sido así y por tanto no se ha activado y no ha hecho nada el microchip. En cuyo caso parece que lo más razonable es pensar que efectivamente Gilberto ha actuado libremente y es moralmente responsable de lo que ha hecho. Pero entonces, fijaos, si Gilberto actúa libremente y es moralmente responsable de lo que hace, aun cuando no podría haber actuado de manera distinta, entonces tiene que ser que el principio de posibilidades alternativas es falso. Recordad, según este principio, para actuar libremente y ser moralmente responsable de lo que hago, debe tener la posibilidad abierta de actuar distinto. Pero en la historia acabamos de contar, Gilberto no tiene realmente la posibilidad abierta de actuar distinto, no tiene abierta la posibilidad, la opción de perdonarle la vida a Pedrito. La única opción que tiene es la de matarlo, sea porque él mismo acaba optando por eso, sea porque el microchip ve que se está desviando un poquito de esa decisión y entonces se activa. Pero si pensamos, como parece que tenemos que pensar, que Gilberto es moralmente responsable de lo que